Today is going to be a Japanese beetle slaughter fest. We're going to dispel some of the Japanese beetle myths. I'm going to show you how to take care of Japanese beetles and why I'm a huge fan of Japanese beetles. We've got an infestation going on. It is Japanese beetle season. The number one method of Japanese beetle control are traps. The bag-a-bug is the go-to to capture Japanese beetles, but it is a flawed design and it's pretty expensive. It's like $9 for the beetle traps, and then once it rains, the beetles start to smell inside the traps if you don't empty it out. So I've got a couple modifications I've done here with the bag-a-bug traps. With this one, I took a gallon water jug, cut it in half, and I took the top of the bag-a-bug trap with the bait in it, and I just kind of stuffed it in here. So the beetles are going to go in here and they're going to fall into this bucket. Similar idea here. I just cut the bottom of the bag off and I tie wrapped it to this gallon jug here. You could even drill some small holes at the bottom here, so if rain comes through, it can go out and you don't get nasty, smelly beetles in there. Now these traps were originally in the garden, but I moved them out here alongside our road because this is a Japanese beetle hotspot. Japanese beetle loves creeper, and we got some creeper going up this pole here. As you can see, the Japanese beetles are flocking to it. And this feeds into why I love Japanese beetles. It's a free resource to feed my chickens and my tarantulas. If you don't have chickens or tarantulas, you can compost the dead beetles. Millions of beetles, free biomass and food for livestock. That's what gets me excited. Back to Japanese beetle control. If you just want to keep Japanese beetles from eating your plants, go out, you buy the bag-a-bug traps. Now you can use them as is, or you can do modifications like I have done here. I suggest the modifications to make them last longer. And this is where the controversy kicks in, because some people will tell you do not put the traps inside your garden. I will absolutely put the traps inside my garden, so let's go inside the garden. I'm going to tell you why it's a good idea. So it is true that these traps will attract Japanese beetles from miles away, and people seem to think you don't want to put it in your garden because it's going to attract Japanese beetles to your garden. But another thing that attracts Japanese beetles to your garden is your garden. Stuff like grapevines, fruit trees, they are Japanese beetle favorites. And before I moved my traps from inside the garden, they've been in here for the past 2 weeks, and they were taking Japanese beetles and moving them to the front of the garden instead of back here by my grapevines. And my grapevines really haven't had much Japanese beetle pressure. So although these traps may attract Japanese beetles to your garden, they're called traps for a reason. They are going to trap those beetles that are attracted to them. Besides the traps, I have a trap crop that kind of just grew on its own in my garden, and I just let it self-seed all the time now. It's called Evening Primrose. Evening Primrose has got to be the best Japanese beetle trap crop there is. Evening Primrose is an aggressive biennial plant. They grow like this their first year. In the second year, they look like this. So I make it a point every year to let some of these plants grow because I know the Japanese beetles, they're going to show up no matter what I do. And I'd rather have them eat the evening primrose than my grapevines or my fruit trees. You can see the damage that the Japanese beetles have done to all these leaves. There's not many beetles on here right now because it was cloudy earlier, but in a couple hours before sunset, this is going to be loaded with beetles. What's left of the beetles because the traps caught a lot of them. So when you're using the Japanese beetle traps, besides putting them in your garden, you have to focus on wind direction. The wind is going to blow that scent and attract the Japanese beetles. So when these traps were in my garden, I know that the Japanese beetles are focusing on the evening primrose, so I'd use the wind direction as an advantage, and I'd put it upwind of the evening primrose, which would mean all the beetles on there would flock to the traps, get caught, and get eaten by chickens. If you got an issue with your fruit trees, you can take the traps, put them upwind of your fruit trees, and all those beetles on your fruit trees will go to the trap, and you can dispose of them however you like. Let's talk about Milky Spore. Now that's something that a lot of people use to defeat the Japanese beetles when they're in their larva state in the lawn, but there is a huge problem with that. When you do that, you're not only killing the Japanese beetle larva, you're killing some of the most beneficial beetles for the garden, the ground beetles and the soldier beetles, and the lightning bugs, which spend their time underground. Those little cute beetles you see running around your garden are some of the most vicious predators there are and most beneficial insects for your garden. So we don't want to destroy them. Hand picking the beetles is super effective because they usually hang out in the same place. You can go there with something and just catch all the beetles. A lot of people use soapy water. Soapy water is not necessary. You can just use regular water or no water at all. And Japanese beetles are one of the dumbest creatures on the planet. One of their defense mechanisms is to fall when they're scared. So we can really use that to our advantage. We're taking something like this to capture them. Check this out. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. It's a little tough. There's all the beetles there. We're gonna go underneath them. And we got a couple. How about these? Oop, oop. There you go. Dummies. Did a quick walk. I got a few beetles here. I'm gonna go ahead and give these to the chickens. The chickens know the drill. They are huge fans of the Japanese beetles. And there's nothing left. So when it comes to Japanese beetles, your best bet is to get the bag-a-bug, modify it, put it upwind to attract the beetles away from your plants and dispose of them however you like, whether it's chickens, tarantulas, or composting them. That's how I keep the bugs away from my plants and recycle them through chickens. Thanks for watching.